Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it.
Okay.
Right on. Matt, thanks for being with me, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. It's going to be an amazing episode. The program is focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? How did you knew that this was the way to go? So that's what you do for a living, please.
Yeah, so currently I'm the co-founder of the largest podcasting company for financial advisors in North America called
Amazing.
Proudmouth. It's the name of the company.
Send me the link. I know we talked about it before, but send me the link because I want more people to see it. That's pretty interesting. Has a lot of money in it, especially if you have advertisement and stuff like that. So were you like walking the street one day and you're like, let me do that, or did something else happen to it?
Yeah. So buckle up, brother. This is a little bit
Oh
of a
yeah.
story here, okay? So I started doing radio at 13. All right. So my
Wow.
high school had a really low watt radio station. It was donated by somebody. And so I remember I got off my first podcast, Denny, or my first show, and I ran into my advisor's office. Her name was Mrs. Kirkpatrick. I said, Mrs. Kirkpatrick, I know what I want to be when I grow up. And she said, Dear God, I hope it's not a radio DJ. And I was like, No. So that was like my, like a 13-year-old. I figured out what I wanted to do for a living. She just dashed it against the rocks. And then I spent some time in the Navy during the first Persian Gulf War. I came back. I was the news director at my college radio station and ran like 3 or 4 shows. So like being behind the microphone has always been something that I really love. And then I went on a very, very different path. I graduated with a degree in biomedical ethics. Spent some time in Omaha, Nebraska. My wife and I working at a couple of different places. One was a place called Boys Town where we lived with at-risk teenage boys. I became a therapist. I got my master's degree as a therapist and a life coach. Became a financial. This is where things start making more sense. I became a financial services coaching consultant for a very large consultancy in Omaha, Nebraska. They started asking me to do. This is how long ago it was, dude. The cassette tapes and DVDs and CDs that they were sending to their clients. Um,
I'm
and
old
so I
enough to
started.
remember those, and
Yeah.
I think I told the story here or elsewhere. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, like huge. It's religion in my house, and my father was like that as well. And I was sitting over here with a friend of mine, and he was like, in that episode, that didn't happen that way. I said, let's have the originals. They're right over here. We can play them right now. If you're here, like, okay, fine. Matt, it's been over 12 years since last time I owned a DVD. I have the discs. I got none to play them on. So they're
Yeah.
more like a decoration now than anything else.
They're a collector's item, dude. I mean, they're going to be
Yeah.
worth something someday. The ones that I did the voiceovers for,
That-
they're not going to be worth anything, just so you know.
I'm
Uh,
going to the grave with those. They are not to be sold.
well, you and I are kindred spirits with that. So I have two battle lightsabers upstairs right now that I absolutely. Do you have one too? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Um, All right, so to wrap up the story, I ran my own consultancy business for a while, and I worked with many financial services professionals. And then I met this crazy Canadian guy at a conference, and he and I just hit it off. He was a marketing and branding specialist, and I was a practice management specialist. And we're like, look, we're kind of getting tired of what we're doing. We both wanted to start something fundamentally new, so we created Proudmouth, and our philosophical foundation was that we were gonna stop financial advice being gate kept in North America because most financial advisors, Denny, won't talk to you unless you have over $250,000 in investable assets. And because of wealth distribution here in the States, that number is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And we wanted to be able to make all of this brilliance that our financial advisors had open up to the general public. And so, and I'll leave the story with this. We've done 8,500 episodes and over 100,000 social media posts for financial advisors as of today.
That's amazing. I'm pretty sure this was adjusted to inflation because actually more and more people were getting 250,000, but unfortunately you can't do much with it. A few years ago, I think 6 years ago or seven, around that time, I bought the place that I am right now, yeah. And it wasn't cheap, but it was pretty affordable. I have a bank loan and everything. And now it costs about quarter of a million euros. And, technically that should be a lot of money. It really isn't. There's not a lot of things you can do with that kind of money.
That's right.
A dear friend of mine, he was living in Berlin for about 15 years. He's back home now. I said, what's up with you? He said, if I am to buy an apartment, because we're city boys, we don't do houses. I just can't. He said, if we're to buy an apartment in a nice place, in a nice area of Berlin, the minimum of minimum is 1.2 million euro. Like,
Ooh.
we don't have that money, man. No,
Oh.
the middle class don't have it. So I myself graduated marketing and finance in high school, bachelor and master degree. So yeah, that's a lot of money. Now, my third question is you kind of, hinted a bit, but my third question is how did you knew that this was the way to go? And the reason I'm asking, and I'm pretty sure from what I've heard, you've noticed that too, especially in the United States. Because when I started this program, I thought it was a Europe problem. It isn't. And people tend to go to colleges and universities just to get the diploma. That stigma, have the diploma and your life will be easier. I honestly can't say that that's true. Maybe it was 30 years ago at some point, but not really anymore. And normally they get into the first thing they can get into, and
Mhm.
it's not for them. And again, now because of LinkedIn and sensitive people, I have to say it every time. I'm not insulting people. When something's not for you, it's not for you. I've been
Yeah.
there. Uh, Economy and finance, it's what I do. For 4 months, a friend of mine gave me this course as a gift, 1 year course, CCNA for Cisco hardware architecture. I aced it and I worked for 4 months and I was so miserable. Good Lord. It really was for me. So when I say it's not for you, it's not an insult.
Yeah.
But and again, if you're on your own, let's say you're fresh out of college or university, you're on your own, yeah, I guess you can be miserable. But when you have a spouse and children, you can't really fake it that long, and you can't fake it all the time. The best actors can. I mean, look at them. How many of them have stable and normal families and homes? Not a lot. And you said that you knew when you were 13 that you want to do it. However, you were absurdly educated. You're charismatic. You're charming. You're basically a pretty solid and amazing dude. You could have done any number of things, and yet you didn't. You went with that one. Now, at age of 13, clearly you weren't advised to do it, but you had it somewhere in you, I guess. Was it a gut feeling? How did you knew that this was the way to go?
So I have a life philosophy that is applicable to your question. So I trust in the wind, and I'm going to tell you a quick story to illustrate this sort of. And by the way, your listeners can insert whatever they want into the wind after they hear the story. So when I was in the Navy, we were going to Scotland from New Jersey, and we
Right.
hit a nor'easter. Okay, so that's a horrible storm in the North Atlantic, 20-foot swells. I mean, it's just brutal, right? I mean, everybody on my ship was getting sick. It was terrible. But I didn't get seasick for some reason. It just didn't affect me like it did. So unfortunately, everybody else is sick. So I had to do like 10 jobs, right? And one of the jobs that I had to do was to stand this watch called sounding and security. And when you're in really bad weather, you have to make sure your ballast tanks are right, because if not, the ship can flip over, right? And that's bad, dude. Like you don't want that in the
Yeah.
North Atlantic. And so I was in like this, orange suit with flotation things, and I'm latched into a line, and I'm, fighting my way up to the fork. So what's the forward part of the ship to go ahead and do my job. And it's just brutal. The wind is just beating the hell out of me. I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. So I get up to the front, and then, I get my job done, and I clip myself in, and I start walking back, and all the wind's at my back, man. And like, would jump up in the air and I would float, and it would have a whole bunch of fun. And that became like this huge motto for me, because I think a lot of people have blind trust in the wind. I don't have blind trust in the wind. I was still latched into that, dude. Like I knew where I needed to go, but I trusted that the wind was going to carry me easily. And so all of the different incremental things that I shared with you in my story and how I got here, all of the sudden at different parts of my life, the wind blew. And I did what I did in the Navy. I turned out, I faced the wind, and I'd assess the situation and say, is the wind blowing me in the right direction? And in 52 years, the wind's never blown me in the wrong direction, dude. Like it really
Amazing.
hasn't. And in my favorite part about all of this is as you get older, you start reflecting on the why. Like how did like well, your question, how did I end up here? And if you look at all of the different things that I've done and the different life experiences that I've had, this just makes sense. You know, I interview people for a living. I've done over 1,000 podcasts myself. I actually run a podcast coaching program for existing podcasters to help with their performance, with their promotion, and with the production of their show. Right. And so, I mean, I do all of this stuff all day long, and it's because everything has led me here. Now, here's the fun part. I don't know where the wind's going to blow me next.
You never do.
So, but I am wide open and receptive to the fact that the wind does blow. And it's my wife. There's a great movie called Chocolat,
Yeah,
which is a yeah. So
yeah.
so you know how the wind started blowing, and she's like, we got to move, right? Because that was the gypsy way, as she brought it up in the movie. And I've been married for 25 years.
That's
She's the greatest person ever. I love her more than I could ever imagine loving anybody. Um,
And I know people that have been alive 25 years, they can barely live with themselves. So you guys,
Yeah, I'm into that one. Yeah. But she knows when the wind's blowing. Like my wife, but she doesn't use that terminology. She says hers is you're getting antsy. And so, part of it is my own personal growth and development. I always like to be, stoicism was a huge aspect of philosophy that I focused on. It's always that, in the Japanese principle of Kaizen, gradual small improvements over time. Those are things that are really important to me. So if I don't feel like I'm growing, if I don't feel like I'm getting better at what I do, then I get antsy. And not there yet, but I know it's there.
no, as much as I love it and I really love the comfort zone, I'm doing my best to stay out of it because I'm not a young man, but I'm not that old, and
Mhm.
it dulls you. I have seen men that, and they've been working 40, 45 years. Those guys were like crazy strong. They were like super healthy, amazing people, sharp, real
Yep.
sharp. And when they retired at the age of 70 something, in 5 years, they're like, you can't even recognize that person anymore. It's that's why I'm kind of afraid of retirement, and that's why I'm trying to have at least two jobs. Uh, really not. I mean, money's good, but not really that much because the money because when you do other stuff, it kind of keeps you in good shape.
Yeah. Well, I think so. My generation, Generation X here, uh, I don't think I'm ever going to retire. I just want work to be optional. I've been working since I was 13 years old, right? Babysitting jobs, shoveling driveways, mowing lawns. I mean, it's kind of just part of, well, because we were poor, right? If I wanted stuff, I had to make my own money to buy the stuff, and also to help around, the house to relieve the burden from my mom. And so, I don't know different, um, but you know what? I'll get to a point where work is able to be optional, and then I'll make a decision at that. But the idea of retiring, so my grandfather was a professor of the history of psychology at a local university for like 30 years.
Amazing.
Yeah, he actually studied with B.F. Skinner. Which that was a big deal back then because he like kind of wrote all the behavioral psychology books. And so one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my entire life. When he retired, he died like 3 years later, dude,
Yeah.
because he didn't have anything to do. He just like sat around all day, and I'm not that guy, right? I mean, I don't sit I don't sit still very well anyway, let alone for long periods of time.
I've read something about Generation X, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna appreciate it. People from Generation X became 30 at the age of 10 and stayed 30 at the age of 50.
Yep, amen, brother.
That's now you really just when you said you don't know where the wind will blow you and you never know. I've always had this attitude because my mind is just not designed to think about the past because I can't change it. It's done. It's over. If there are mistakes, I'm gonna learn from them probably. Although I don't, I'm giving myself too much credit here. Very often I don't do. But sometimes I do. And I have no idea what will happen tomorrow. And I've always hated that question when I go to a job interview. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like whoever came up with that question, I am against bullying in school, but yeah, this should be allowed in those cases. Like you're asking for it. This is an absurd question, and I really, really don't understand it. I have a sub question, and because your profession is so interesting, you're giving financial advice to people. Which is the most common mistake people do?
Um, yeah, so that's fascinating. So we've done some research on the most listened to episodes that we've ever produced for financial advisors because I'm not a financial advisor. I never have been. I just worked with them and have for, since
Yeah.
2006. The number one thing that people don't do is they don't have a safety net. And so what people think that they need to do is they need to have, I need to take, $10,000 and get it in the bank as quickly as possible. No, 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 no. That's not what you need to do. You need to drop 20 bucks into a protected account that you're not going to touch every single solitary week until you get to that amount of money. And I think because of we're such an instant gratification society, people don't think about the fact that what you're trying to do is make small incremental investments now to make huge gains later, because in the market here, every 7 years, every 7 to 12 years, depending on the cycle, you almost double your money,
In the
right?
back.
No, in the stock market,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
so you're and because bank rates fluctuate so substantially, and right now in the States, interest rates are insane. Um, uh, of course, for lending, not for
Yeah.
savings, but whatever. It's stacked against you, just to be clear. And so, how do you get in front of that? It's that emergency fund, because most people in the world, and these numbers vary depending on where you are, but here in North America, most people don't have $500 saved in an emergency because they think that they have to
500 or
immediately drop
5,000?
500. Yeah, because people
That's
think that they have to always have $500 and they have to get it in today instead of realizing it might take you 2 months to get $500 into the bank, right? That's what's the important thing so that you don't have to be relying on credit cards, or in the States, we have something called payday advance, which is basically racketeering, but I don't need to go there.
yeah.
It's really brutal. So and it goes back to what we had talked about before. It's Kaizen, graduous, continual gradual improvement, small improvements. When you do that, especially with your money, and we hear that all the time from the advisors we work with, man, I really wish they would have just put 20 bucks away. Just that doesn't exist. It's one less meal out a week or whatever, and you're just making that payment to yourself so that you have that when you need it.
No, no, my generation, I'm born in 1990. We were taught that whatever you do, and I'm not talking about isolated cases where you have some illness or something like that, take 10% of your, earnings, net earnings, and put it somewhere. And most of us, I mean, the men around me are like that, but I'm sure that there's an equivalent in the United States as well. But here in Europe, we have call them gold chips. And you pretty much buy a gold chip for 10% of your salary. So, you can't really eat it or just sell it. There are places you can sell them, but there are, pretty few. So just keep them there. Once you have enough, you can just, I mean, this is how I did it. I had like quite a few of those. I went to the store, they gave me the money because gold always gets expensive. It's kind of like bulletproof for inflation.
Mhm.
So that's how I was able to do the down payment of my property.
Yeah.
I mean, it did took me 10 years, but it was worth it. And yeah, but those that are a bit younger than I don't think they do that. But I mean, they're young, so they'll learn. But what you just said is shocking, and it, and you didn't make it sound like it was an isolated case. You said like a lot of people, because $500 is like pretty much a like for 10 days work or something. You got to work 10 days for that money, and you don't even have that kind of a savings. It really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe I'm missing something. But
Well,
that's
no, it's not that you're missing something. It just really shows, you know, the inflation rates, how expensive everything is here, and this is all across North America. This isn't just in the States. Yeah, so it's worse in the States, but yeah.
no, that's 500. I mean, you kind of shocked me a little bit. I
Good.
Yeah.
Keep it interesting, brother.
No, it always is. I had a guess he was a professor of chemistry. He was Canadian. And he said about 75% of the people that are over there and they're studying it are working something completely different.
Mhm.
That's like a huge percent. And that's pretty much why I made the podcast. But we have those cases, but it's not even close to 75%. And also keep in mind that in Europe it's practically for free. My master's degree was from a private college. I don't remember how much it was, but I was working as a bartender. I paid the whole thing. And I was
Wow.
a bartender in a Irish pub. Like I wasn't a bartender at the Buckingham Palace. When I went to Denmark, I graduated in Denmark. My master's degree is from there. It was free, zero payment. You only need to be accepted. I was about to start a PhD, but had some personal issues. If I did, it would have been about 500 euros, a bit less than 500 euros per year. So that's $520.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
my master's degree cost me $70,000.
that's a lot of money. Uh,
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
because prices in the US are different, so but it's a lot of money for here. Uh, but from what I understood, and maybe I'm wrong, I really don't know, but when you're over there studying, you are living in the campus. So if it was 7,000, the whole thing, break it in four for the bachelor and covering the expenses. I mean, it's pretty reasonable if you break. I don't have a calculator in front of me, although I do because I'm on a computer. But if I have to make a rough estimation, I think it's manageable because we're talking about 4 years period, right?
Yeah, so I wasn't paying for my living expenses for my master's degree. Now, undergraduate right now is actually about 200,000 in the States.
That's 4 years.
Yeah.
So 50K per year with all expenses included. A bit too expensive, still a bit too expensive.
Well, I mean, if you
But
look at your guys' model, from just, in Europe, and I'm generalizing here, the things that we have to really worry about and where most Americans specifically go into crippling debt is education and medicine, right?
oh,
Because our medical system is so jacked up here that you can go in and you'll get a bill for $15,000, right? And
there
your
are some
insurance
pretty
isn't covering
expensive
that.
hospitals here as well, but most of them are pretty pretty affordable. You remind me of that story. The first time I went to Denmark, I was like a boar. I felt like the ugliest peasant Europe has ever seen. 'Cause I didn't know because normally if I have to go to a drugstore here, I'm going to a drugstore, I'm waiting in line, I'm purchasing what I'm over there, and I'm leaving. And when I went over there, I was waiting in line, and there was this beautiful Scandinavian nymph. She was amazing. And she walked in front of me. I like, okay, thank God you're good looking. Then there's this old woman who went in front of me. I like, okay, well, I'm not gonna, make a scene with grandma. 'Cause, yeah. And there's a guy who went in front of me. I said, excuse me, are you blind? Did you not show me? They said, well, sir, it's my number. There was a ticket. How was I supposed to know that? Lord, thank God there was an ugly guy to tell me.
You were in the queue, man. That's what you normally do. I totally get it.
Yeah.
So.
I have a fourth question. I
Okay.
never put it in the invitation. Although, if you've watched any episode, you know what it is. If you have one advice, I'm sure you can talk for ages. If you
Mhm.
have one advice for my audience is primarily people that are sitting here wondering, is this job for me? Is this education for me? Is it worth it? If you can give those people one advice, what will it be?
Yeah. Just because you're where you are right now isn't mean you're going to be where you're going to be. And so I have my master's degree. As a therapist and also as a life coach. Um, I was a terrible therapist, Denny. I didn't know that. Now, is the education life changing and has changed my whole life with interpersonal reading people, understanding, learning how to listen, empathy, all of the different techniques? Absolutely. It was the best education I could have ever imagined. Dude, my undergraduate degree is in applied philosophy, right? I mean, the most unmarketable thing you could ever imagine, but
Yeah.
because I learned how to think, it has given me the opportunity to have the opportunity to learn so much more about other things. And so those people who are either in a job right now or in school right now, who are your audience, who are wondering, is this the right thing? This is where you are right now. Make the best and learn as much as you can about where you are right now and trust in the wind, because the wind might blow you somewhere else that is truly going to take you where you want to go.
Amazing advice. Please don't forget to send me all the links. I want them in the description below, so the LinkedIn crowd can check you out.
Thanks, man.
And with that said, Matt, I appreciate that. Thanks for being with me. See you around. Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.